For many African Americans, with the resurgence of black awareness and pride, black men and women face new problems, not only in relation to white society, but to each other in a black society. Recently, there has been a stream...
Wait. Greetings and welcome once again. This is Amuna. This is Noteworthy. And this is what we're going to jump into. The year is 1968. Grab your pen and your paper, because some people may be having a revisionist view of history, ahistorical. We want to sprinkle pixie dust and make it to say what we want. But what were they really saying at that space and time? Is this issue between the so-called black men and black women new? Is it due to modernization, or was it something that pre-existed? Let's listen.
Of articles on this subject, and the Chicago Daily Defender, America's largest black newspaper, began a series some weeks ago on the emergence of the new black woman. Benny Washington, reporter for the paper, surveyed the Chicago scene to report on how black men and women believe the revolution and racial pride will affect them and their families, before the sociologists and experts tell us how we are supposed to react.
As a reporter for the Chicago Daily Defender, and as a black woman married...
Chicago Daily Defender, one of the largest black papers. That means that this thought, this ideology that's being espoused, just like YouTube is going to get to the ears of many, and then people are going to repeat it until it becomes rhetoric, right? So, largest black paper, okay? And they ran a series, The Emergence of the New Black Woman. You know I'm about to try to find that series, but it's all good. So it's this thought that was being pushed at this time. Let's continue.
To a black man, I've become deeply aware of the effects of this new black revolution on the relationship between black man and black woman. I see it among my own friends, and I also see it in my home. But the most revealing and the most vocal statements about what the new black man expects from the new black woman came when I met with a group of young unmarried friends one Saturday afternoon.
I think that what's happening in America as far as black men, black women is concerned is that there's a revolution within a revolution. We are fighting our own woman. Our woman will not allow us to emerge as black men.
Boom, stop, hold on. So these are unmarried. She's married, she's seeing it, but they're unmarried. There's a revolution within, taking notes, this is noteworthy, a revolution. And they're fighting, this is his words, fighting what we're seeing today, YouTube, blogosphere, manosphere, this fight between the so-called black man and the black woman. Okay, there's so much being said, we gotta slow it down. Let's go.
But our black women, who has been put in this role of aiding white America, white structure, and castrating the black male, has continued doing this. She cannot live with us. It's not that we can't live with her.
Are you blaming us? Are you...
Sorry, this is juicy. Being put in the role by white America. And his words, castrating the black man. And then he goes on to say, it's not that we can't live with her. She can't live with us. So, oh man. Let's go.
Saying that it's our fault that this happened?
No, I'm not blaming black America women. I just said that I'm blaming the system. They are victims of the system like the black male.
Well, why do you say that we are castrating you? You say that you want to be the leaders. Okay, well, what about the black professional woman? Are you saying that there should be no black professional woman? Are you trying to deny black women the right to be creative, the right to function?
We're not asking for you to take a back seat. We're saying that you have got to be astute enough and can view the situation well enough where you just automatically know what your role is and step back. And whenever you want to have that aggressive thing, this is the thing that the young black man today is not going to tolerate. My old man tolerated it because his old man tolerated it. It came up for years and years and years. But today, the young black man is not going to take it. He's going to be out there as a leader. White America has used black women to keep the black male in his place. And you're still aiding him by saying, well, we are qualified we want to work, we can help.
I'm still to the aggressive stuff. He said you could do that aggressive stuff. Basically, she's asking, I just lost my train of thought. Hold on. he basically, she should be a student of, that's what he said, to know when to double dutch, when to jump in, when to jump out, when to be used by the system, when to be used by him. That's what I'm hearing. But let's continue.
Okay, how are you going to reprogram men so that they don't let us take over what's supposed to be their responsibility? And men that I have had dealings with, they are perfectly willing to sit back and let us do anything we want to.
I don't think that you have to reprogram men. I think you have to reprogram women.
No, you have to reprogram the man.
So the accountability in this conversation, the accountability is put on the female. Because she got concessions, then the responsibility goes on the female. She should know when to go forward. She should know when to go back. There's a lot of confusion in this space. At the same time, saying both have been victimized by the system, but the indifference is, from what I'm hearing, that you got victimized, but you got benefits with it. And we were left out in the cold as the men. So therefore, you should know how to go between both these spaces, the system and the so-called black men. And when asked the question, well, what are you going to do to reprogram the... He's like, no, we ain't got to do spit. Y'all need to be reprogrammed. This has been going on for quite some time.
And so that he will forcefully take what belongs to him, because you know women, as long as we can get, we're going to get. And it's part of our being. We're going to do anything to you that you let us, whether we want to or not.
You don't want to live on the level of income that I can afford you and love me on the basis of that. You want to always be aspiring to have all those things that's a part of the great middle class white American society. And because I can't deliver these things to you, you say that you are not a man.
I don't measure a man by how much money he can bring home. I measure a man by how he treats me. Whether when I'm tired and I'm sick and I'm scared, he's there.
For these women,
Wait, there's two things going on. He's saying the same thing that's being said today, the whole I don't want no scrub. He's like, you're not satisfied. It is not sufficient what I can deliver. At the same time, if one is saying that they're a victim of the system, then in many cases, what the male was able to deliver was not sufficient. And therefore, she did have to make arrangements and also pitch in and know when to do the double dutch in. So it's kind of a tight kind of rope to walk. And we see why she decided in many spaces to go ahead and get some of these things herself. It was already off balance, and her desire to go out and get it herself even further put it off balance in the other way. So we can hear the anger from him. And then her, she said, take it forcefully. But that creates another issue. If he take it forcefully, then you have, you're oppressing me, you're mistreating me, and then that's going to be a recipe for her to leave. So there's a fine line that needed to be walked. And as we can see in today's space and time, we haven't mastered it as yet.
men are there, but with the feeling of racial pride has come new conflicts and new problems. Across America, they meet to discuss what Black awareness means to their families and to them as Black women of today.
You know, there have been a lot of myths created about the Black family. We all recognize that. And one of the most pernicious myths is the myth of the Black matriarch, you know, and this whole concept. And I think this is one of the reasons that the Black community reacted so negatively to the Moynihan report, because we know that that's not true.
We really need to pause there. For all of us who are out here, put your hand up if you read the Moynihan report. Then put your hand up as what she just said, because this is the space and time that the Moynihan report came out, of how many people was upset about the Moynihan report and hit back or clap back against the Moynihan report. So many people in today's space and time just quote the Moynihan report, but not quote what was going on around it, and that people were not in agreement. Especially melanated people were not in agreement with what the conclusion that the Moynihan report had, and what social economic, what's the word I'm looking for? Results came, or things came, or policies came as a result of that Moynihan report. So as we're quoting it in today's YouTubian space and all of these, we need to put history back into context. But I just want to say that because that's like the Willie Lynch letter for me. It just does something. I'm like, come on, man. Come on. But let's go.
The black woman has not been a matriarch in the sense that it has been defined thus far. And thank God research, and I hope black research, is being done now to reverse that kind of thing. In fact, the black woman has been a woman at the head of a household, not by choice, but by necessity. And more often, that's right, and more often than not, she is not a strong, matriarchal, aggressive, domineering figure. She is a woman in search of a man. But this story has not been told. The prejudiced society created what we have now. So that's what
I think that's important as we look at matriarchal societies around the world and the support system that they have within that culture to support this matriarchal society. What she's saying is it's not by choice, it's by necessity. She said that, I'm just repeating it or reiterating it, that she had to step in this role coming straight up from antebellum time, from slavery time, comes straight up. It was something because there was a vacancy, and we heard the brother say she should know when to jump in and when to fall back. It's like, okay, when he's not here, for jump in, and then when he comes, fall back. And that's a lot to be able to adjust with, especially because when the person comes back, they don't necessarily always meet the needs of the family unit, and it's hard. It's very difficult for one to just sit back and not try their best while trying not to step on the toes of the masculine principle. It's very difficult, especially if a mother has a household, family, and things that need to be taken care of. So all those things, we should take into consideration.
Okay, we have a revolution going on. We're part of the revolution.
We're in the evolution. I think the revolution is yet to come.
Yeah, it's the this thing
we keep tossing the word revolution around lightly.
Actress Val Ward performs the works of our black poets and dramatists. For her, black awareness is not revolutionary, but the very foundation of her marriage. Val's husband, Francis Ward, talks of the struggles of the black family in the past and the obstacles that lie ahead.
It's extremely important for black history and culture to be transmitted from generation to generation. And the best way, the most effective way that this has always been done is through the family, acting as the primary unit of social organization. And I think one reason why it has not been done with black people is because of the destruction done to our family life. So this certainly has to be one function of the black marriage, to begin to re-emphasize and to pick up the thread of Afro-American history and culture that has been left off generations ago when Africans were sold into slavery.
He highlights the importance of putting back together the melanated family. So if we are listening to people who do not prize, do not hold up the family and piecing it back together and healing the broken pieces, we're going to ultimately end up in destroying ourselves. Because you're not going to be able to reproduce. You're not going to be able to heal. You're not going to be able to mend. You're not going to be able to sow into further generations, right? So he's talking about the importance of transmitting this information, for me, accurately and truthfully. Because if we revise it just so that we can feel good in the moment, we're actually robbing those who came before us. We are robbing their experience. We're robbing the wisdom that we can get from the way they lived and the things they did right and the things they did wrong, just so that we can feel good in this moment. So I wanted to say that, but let's continue.
The family unit was purposely destroyed. Part of the obligation of being black is to make absolutely certain that whoever has any kind of control or jurisdiction over your kid, is not bringing him into conflict with the kinds of things we teach. We try to instill in them here in the home.
Most middle-class homes, quote middle-class homes, like I don't even get caught up in that bag, you go into will have some copy of anybody, any white artist, I don't even have to name anybody, instead of the works of black artists. I think it starts, especially that identity part, the books, the kinds of books. All of these things start in the home rather than complaining about them being in the schools at this point.
Unless we're absolutely certain of how that
Sorry. So they were talking about what's going on today. People complaining about what they're teaching in the schools, complaining about what your children are learning. You have to be a bit more invested. What your nieces, what your grandchildren are learning. You have to be a bit more proactive and invested in their thoughts, in their mind, so that whatever they're bringing in is not conflicting. And if it is, you have to be ever present to weed out those thoughts and help them to show them how to think, not necessarily what to think, but how to think, so that they can be able to do it for themselves as they go forward in life. And if we don't focus and hone in on the family unit, and we're so stuck at the male against the female, then we'll never be able to come together and grow strong families again. So, they spitting facts.
Teacher is handling them. Then we may have to assume that whole responsibility. We may have to pull them out of school ourselves, and do all the educating ourselves.
Say, for instance, when they say to my child to draw, last year Rhonda painted Abraham Lincoln brown as she was put in the corner, We had to go up to the school and deal with that. They must be respectable to their peers in school. And what we do, we handle that. We don't say, you jump up, you curse that teacher out, or you say it doesn't exist. But they see us at that school knocking on the door. You have to be in there. Either we're going to control, their minds here, or at least give them the choice.
A lot of this is new to us, and a lot of these things we're grappling with, and we don't want to give anybody the impression that we have the answer to everything.
No, let me cut you off again. People go around talking about hate. We really don't have time to hate because, it goofs up the bag. We're loving ourselves. This might bring around a lot of other different things.
To be black means to love. It's got nothing to do with having to hate anybody.
It does determine, though, Francis, it has nothing to do with hate again. It's love. That we might have to do certain things to protect that love.
It may bring us into conflict with somebody.
Necessary to protect that love.
Finally, I asked Francis about the standards of today's black man as compared with those of 20.
She was like, I don't mean to cut you off, Francis. She's going to intercept Francis a couple of times. Says, what's going on? You're over there cutting off Francis in the middle of his wisdom.
Years ago.
Standards which white society had projected. I think these standards were that he had to become successful according to the white mode. He had to get a good job. He had to buy a good car. He had to move to the suburbs. He had to rear a good family that went to church every Sunday, that did everything that the typical good American family was supposed to do. And I don't think the black man necessarily is addicted to that notion. I think he sees the falsity of it. I think he sees the total hypocrisy of it. I think he wants to
some people out here on the internet may disagree, Brother Francis. He was talking about the melanated man had to become successful according to the European standard, and he's saying in 1968 that they were seeing the hypocrisy. I don't think they're seeing it now. They're buying it again in it, and that it wasn't all the way true as it related to him, because you leave other things, as they're speaking about behind when you just go after this materialistic standard of success. But Francis, I don't know. Some people might disagree. You might get a response video. Let's finish this out.
A tightly knit family, but not for the purposes that white society says. He doesn't want to rear a family for any sham purposes, just to fulfill some false ethic. But he wants to rear a good family in order to have his children strong, reared in his own image perhaps, and to transmit, most importantly, to transmit the values which he is learning to his children, and to try to ensure as best he can that his children will transmit those same values to their children, and have the same transmission repeated from generation to generation.
Listen to me. I am a woman. Black, that is. And there is but one thing which brings tears to my eyes, and that is to hear man, woman, or child stand up with strength and say, I'm proud, I'm black, and that's beautiful.
All right,
now
that
for
was the end of that. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts. They went from the single men and their perspective to the married men and his perspective about what was going on in 1968 and the difficulties of the relationship. Are we hearing a lot of these sentiments today? Did anything really change? Did it get worse? Did it get better? Let us know your thoughts. Thank you for tuning in. This is Noteworthy. I hope you filled up your notepad the same way that I did, so that when we're having these talking points, note the video. I'm going to put a link to the actual video in the description. You can reference where you heard it from, and you can give people an opportunity to look deeper and revisit some of the studies that you have done. So with that said, thank everybody for tuning in. This is Imuna. We will talk again soon.